What makes a hero? Is it one's deeds in battle? Is it their courage? Their bravery? Is it their resilience when things get hard? Or perhaps their perseverance over great adversity? Is it when someone sacrifices themselves and puts their own well-being second in favor of the greater good? What is a hero? In this video, we explore one of Tolkien's greatest heroes, what makes them unique, as well as their importance to the nature and philosophy of the Lord of the Rings. Throughout Tolkien's legendarium and mythology at heart, we see the stories of some of the world's mightiest heroes, who all performed great deeds. We hear of Túrins and Glorfindels, of Lúthiens and Eärendils, of Elendils and Aragorns. The majority of them are warriors, mighty princes among men of lesser stock, champions of valor, whose knowledge of lore is deep and whose blood is as noble and as exceptional as they come. Each and every one of them is exceptional. They slay dreadful dragons, fight demons, and duel dark lords. They become stars and shine in the night sky. They dare the gods themselves and ask for their assistance in the greatest battle of their age. Tolkien's works are filled with such characters. Even in The Lord of the Rings, men such as Théoden, Aragorn, Boromir and Faramir, or elves like Elrond and Galadriel, are all noted as great heroes who have all performed legendary deeds. Yet none of them were ever unexceptional to begin with. Whether they be the heir of Isildur, or the sons of the Steward, or members of the House of Finarfin, they were all exceptional. They were aristocrats, descendants of the world's most heroic figures, people of great power and influence, leaders. Naturally, their status often added to their overall character, as they were people that had to carry the burden of entire nations on their shoulders, while they faced the many challenges they encountered. Aragorn had to think of the future of the Dúnedain as a whole. Boromir and Faramir had to think of Gondor, and Théoden of Rohan. In fact, you could argue that as people, they were forced into these extraordinary circumstances specifically because of their exceptional nature from birth. They had no choice, and yet they did the very best that they could. They did not have the privilege of avoiding the darkness because of who they were forced to face it, and that alone is exemplary, and it is part of what makes them such great characters, and most importantly, heroes. I have always believed, however, that The Lord of the Rings offered something greater still. The true heroes of the story, as well as its focus, are the hobbits. Amongst the near-divine elves, the mighty men and hardy dwarves, the hobbits were the equivalent of a peasant in a world filled with princes. And yet, it was not the princes of the world, with deep lore and sharp swords, that completed the journey to destroy the One Ring and save Middle-earth. It was the hobbits. It was those so greatly disadvantaged hobbits. They couldn't fight particularly well, and they weren't very strong, and they were used to the calm life of the Shire, and they did not care much for the outside world. And yet, in a legendarium filled with mythical heroes, it is these hobbits that are the center of the story. Yet if we examine further, all of the hobbits, except one, are equivalent to the warriors that we mentioned earlier, just within the standards of the Shire. They're all from established, well-known families, and they hold high ranks, and too are aristocrats in essence. It seems as if, yet again, we encounter a similar scenario as before. It is not a bad thing, but it certainly counteracts the idea that I mentioned earlier, if only slightly. That is, until we look at the exception, perhaps one of the only exceptions throughout the entirety of The Lord of the Rings, Samwise Gamgee. Sam is born as one of 6 children, the son of the old gaffer, a gardener. His father worked at Bag End, and all of his siblings were employed in a trade. When his father retired, Sam became the new gardener at Bag End and carried on his father's work. Samwise was a simple hobbit. He spoke plainly, he was a bit overweight, and he was not the smartest one around. What he also had, however, was a good heart, an open mind, and a wish for adventure. While the gardener of Bilbo, the old hobbit taught Sam letters and poetry, told him stories of elves and his other adventures. The young Sam was filled with wonder about the outside world, and yet he was but a gardener in the Shire. Sam eventually met and grew very close to Bilbo's adopted son Frodo, who moved into Bag End following the death of his parents. Eventually, when the true nature of the ring is discovered and Sam is caught eavesdropping, Gandalf makes the hobbit Frodo's first companion in his journey to Rivendell. Samwise is at heart filled with excitement and cannot wait to see the elves for the first time. Once he meets one of the wandering companies of elves while on the road, however, something shifts inside of him. He realizes the true seriousness of their trip and that it is no adventure like those in children's books. He realizes that he must always stick by Frodo, his greatest friend, come what may. Adventures, as I used to call them, I used to think that they were things the wonderful folk of the stories went out and looked for, because they wanted them, because they were exciting and life was a bit dull, a kind of sport as you might say. But that's not really the way of it with the tales that really mattered, or the ones that stay in the mind. Sam is the type of person to carry the heaviest load for others. He's the one to hunt and to cook and to nurture, the one to demand to take part in the fellowship and to save Frodo again and again while risking his own life in the process. Even when he looked into the mirror of Galadriel and saw the destruction of his beloved Shire, he stayed true to Frodo and the mission. When Frodo attempts to leave the fellowship behind in secret and complete the journey to Mount Doom by himself, Samwise Gamgee, though he could not swim, jumped into the river to go after him. When Frodo was poisoned and paralyzed by Shelob and he was thought dead, Sam took the One Ring. He became a ring bearer, but he also became something greater. When he managed to injure Shelob and eventually recover Frodo, he did something perhaps infinitely more admirable than bear the ring. He handed it back. Few out of all the heroes of the world could have ever boasted such a deed, yet it was Sam, one of the very few to ever do it. When Frodo could not bear the weight of even his body, Sam was there to carry him on his back all the way to the fires of Mount Doom. When attacked by Gollum on the way up, Sam spared him. And it is only because Sam spared him that the ring was ultimately destroyed after Frodo was unable to throw it into the fire himself. This is Samwise Gamgee. This is a hero. This is perhaps one of Tolkien's greatest heroes, and it is no wonder that the professor perhaps even considered him the story's best. Again and again, Sam stayed true and loyal to Frodo and his friends. He stayed true to the mission. He sacrificed his own needs time and again just to ease Frodo's pain, not caring of his own. Whether it be carrying the most weight on their journey, consuming the least supplies, putting his own life at risk and managing to persevere. Managing to persevere even though he's this lowly, plain and weak hobbit, even though he's Frodo's gardener, because what truly matters is that he's Frodo's friend. This story shows that anyone can be a hero. Anyone has the capacity in their own way to save the world. Being big and strong is helpful, I'm sure, but the most important thing you need is a good heart that is filled with courage and love. It is determination, as every single thing that Sam the Brave ever accomplished was accomplished through his determination. He willed himself into persevering even when his body was broken. He willed himself to hand the ring back even though he did not have the best wit. He willed himself to do all of these great deeds because at the end of the day, at the very least, regardless of your status in birth or your fortunes or your misfortunes, what you have that will always be yours and no one else's is your heart and mind. Your ability to push forward or give up is yours alone. Your ability to carry Frodo on your back on the very slopes of doom is yours alone. Your ability to stay loyal to your friends and be a person with true and sound values is yours alone. Your ability to spare Gollum, your ability to be like Samwise Gamgee is yours, as anyone can be like Samwise Gamgee. You do not have to be the heir to the throne of Gondor to be a hero. His story is a story of loyalty. It is a story of brotherhood. Sam would do anything for Frodo, just like Frodo would do anything for Sam. Sam, however, unlike other characters, had not much knowledge or skills to offer. What he had was himself. Sam reminds us that even in an epic as large in scope as The Lord of the Rings, the simple things matter too. His small acts of kindness to Frodo, his mercy to Gollum, his attitude towards nature and the world as a whole. He may be just a gardener, but he's perhaps the greatest hero in the story. He's Samwise the Brave. Thank you very much for watching.